Hello everybody, it is I, the one and only Steel Paws. Now I'm going to read you Creepypasta now. I'm sorry, this is the first time I've read one, aloud anyway. I'm sorry if it isn't exactly the greatest. My apologies, I can't help but tell you that enough. But, well, let's begin. It's going to be a Pokemon Creepypasta. So, bear with me just a second. Sorry, I have to find one. I was didn't even have one ready. My apologies so much. Well, I'm not gonna apologize that much just because here's one. Here's a good one. Yeah, just bear with me. Hold on a second. Okay. It is called A World Dyed Crimson. Oh, I like the way you spelled it, dude. It's spelled like dyed. It's like somebody died, not dyed as in like you dyed your clothes, dyed your hair or something. That's actually pretty cool. Okay. Oh shit, this is a long ass fucking one. Okay, let us begin. Pain. Pain. So much pain. That's all I can feel now. It is my punishment. But I'm getting ahead of myself now. You must hear my story to understand. My name is now it's Crimson. But it was once Rye. I'm a Sand Slash, and I'm what you would call a shiny. But when I was Rye, I was normal. I was born to my mom and pa. My two normal Sand Slash parents. I had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. But a Houndoom killed them all a few days after I hatched, leaving only me, Pa, Ma, me, and Ma and Pa chased the Houndoom off before it got me. But to see my brother and sisters all torn up, bloody, and dead, at such a young age especially, I was only a level 1 Sand Shrew, scared me so bad. I was disgusted by the thought and the sight of meat. When Mom and Pa tried to have me eat some caterpie they caught, I ran off and vomited. Mom and Pa gasped when they saw this. They tried to come and comfort me, but Pa quickly sought out some berries. I ate them, and Mom and Pa quickly hugged me and said they were sorry for what had happened. They then sent me to bed. From that day on, I refused meat and abhorred violence. I leveled up slowly. I evolved. I still abhorred violence, and I still hated meat. All I ate was berries and other edible plants. I tried my best to avoid fights, but I was around. You okay, kitty? You okay, kitty? Sorry. I was around level 24. I had left Ma and Pa 2 levels ago. I was lounging in my favorite tree like I usually did. Around that time of day, I was half asleep when I heard a growl. I looked down to see a Houndoom, but I recognized it. A chill went down my spine. That look in its eyes, I shivered. Memories of my brothers and sisters being torn apart and eaten came flooding back. It was that Houndoom. I was sure of it. It looked ravenous as well. It smiled, then said, "Oh, finally a fine meal. Sand Slash, harder to beat, but even better than Sand Shrew." I shivered again. So it wanted to eat me. Suddenly the Houndoom opened up its mouth and a jet of flames erupted from it. I was hit, and although it wasn't very effective, it still knocked me from my tree. I fell to the ground with a thud. I slowly scrambled back up. I then looked to see that the Houndoom suddenly vanished, and then appeared right behind me and rammed into me. I tumbled back. It took me a second to register what happened. It was a flamethrower attack, followed by a feint attack. I stood up and took a quick look at myself. I was slightly burned, small scorch marks here and there from the flamethrower. Now I had a bruise forming on my back where the feint attack hit it. I could feel a trickle of blood running out of my mouth and down my face. Suddenly, the Houndoom's mouth was on fire. It was charging for me again. I was scared, so in defense, I quickly curled up in a ball. My spikes now out fully all around me. The Houndoom didn't care. It kept at me. Suddenly I heard a yelp. I unfolded to see the Houndoom rubbing its nose and moving its jaw. The pain of hitting my spike stunned it for now. Seeing a chance to beat it and leave in one piece, I quickly charged and raised my claws, now glowing white and shooting off sparks from the use of my move. The move being Crush Claw. I started slashing at the Houndoom. I was in a scared frenzy. So much I didn't notice the blood surrounding the Houndoom, and I didn't notice the Houndoom collapsing or stopped breathing. I only stopped and noticed when the Houndoom was cut into little pieces. Its head rolled off to the side, eyes dangling from it. Left side of the head torn down to the bone, bits of muscle and skin dangling from it still. Its horns, or what was left of them, shattered and bloody, laying by it. Its legs were thrown all over, bones sticking out, deep gouges. Some of the bone, or those strewn all over them. Its tail now dangled from a tree, blood dripping from it. The point torn in half and barely attached still. His body was a mangled slab of meat, ribs showing all over, some broken and dangled, its internal organs hanging out, some of the organs strewn around his body haphazardly. The little skull on his chest shattered, blood dripping from where it once sat, muscles showing or torn in other parts of its torso. I was startled. I finally looked at myself. I was soaked in blood. My claws were dyed red in the Houndoom's blood. I whimpered. I had to get clean. I had to leave before someone found me in its body, but there was no water close by. I did the only thing I could think of. I tried to clean myself. I took a lick from my claws. The warm blood ran down my tongue and my throat. My eyes widened in surprise. It was so good. I needed more. I vigorously licked my claws. I licked it till they were sparkling clean. Still not enough. I looked at the body of the Houndoom and smiled. I bent down and tore into the remaining flesh. The warm blood tasted so good it ran down my throat like syrup. The meat was delicious as well. It was so warm and juicy. It slid down my throat like a warm cloud. I relished in it. I then tore another hunk of meat away and ate it, then another, and another, and another. I kept it up till the body was a mess of ribs, and that's all. I was now covered head to toe in blood, even more than before. My claws were crimson again. I laughed. I laughed so hard I wanted more. I snapped out of my frenzy and let out a small screech. What was I doing? What about my brothers and sisters? What would they have thought of me if they saw me like this? I started hyperventilating. No more, I vowed to myself, no more meat. I would clean up and never have any more ever again. So I found a small pond and cleaned up, repeating my vow to myself as I cleaned a lot of good that vow did to me. It was 2 levels later. I had stuck to my vow, but I also moved to a new area of the forest. I had found a new tree, and also, as a bonus, it had its own little burrow at the trunk of it. I made the burrow a bit bigger and moved in. It was that one day, that changed everything. I was scavenging a few trees over from my home looking for berries and other edibles. Shit, sorry people. For my home. Sorry. Damn it! And other edibles, I ventured close to a tree, searching around it for some food. As I was searching, I suddenly saw something shiny. Then I heard a galavat. Suddenly, I was thrown back and a giant yellow spider came out of the tree. A galavantula stood over me. I yelped and scrambled back. The galavantula sent out another cry, then shot a web at me. Once it came out, I could see the electricity coursing through it. Electro web. It hit me, but it was useless seeing how I was a ground type and immune to electric type attacks. I was starting to freak out, though. I still couldn't get out of the web itself. I then remembered one of my moves, though. Rapid spin. I quickly started spinning and going into a ball. Soon the web was laying in pieces around me. I stared at the galavantula. It was ticked. It then charged at me and lifted its front legs. They glowed a dull white color. Then it slashed at me. It was a slash attack. My eyes widened. I did the only thing I could to avoid the attack, which could very well kill me. I quickly rolled into a spiked ball. I felt the hit. Then heard Galava. I unrolled to see the galavantula holding a bleeding leg. My spikes were too sharp for it. I needed to beat it better, though, or else it would come after me. I knew it would. I got my nerves up and I rolled into a ball and then launched at the galavantula. I could tell when I hit it because it let out a galava. It would get louder and louder as I picked up speed and power. I went at it about 10 times like this, since that was the average for the move. Rollout. When I stepped, I uncurled to see many holes in the galavantula from my attack. But now it was just angrier. I yelped as it suddenly came at me with a bug bite. I curled into a ball only yet to hear another gala as it hit my spikes. I had to defeat it now. Defeat, kill. I curled and smiled evilly. Kill, yes, kill like I did the Houndoom. Maul, slice, eat. I raised my claws with a devilish grin. They glowed bright white, and sparks flew from them. Crushed Claw made a devilish cackle and started slashing at the galavantula, going into a blind, induced fury at it. When I finally came to, the area was a mess. All 6 of the galavantula's eyes were ripped from its skull and strewn through the area. Its head itself was severed from the body, half of it caved in, the other half a bloody mess. Pieces of muscle torn off and dangling from its skull, bones showing in other areas, the eye socket still leaking blood. Its legs were strewn here and there, some hanging from the tree. Its abdomen was a bloody pile of meat. Slash marks were strewn through the whole thing. Skin and muscle was dangling in some areas. Others, they were completely severed. I looked down at myself. I had splats of blood all over. My claws were now a crimson red color. I chuckled and licked my claws. So warm. The blood was so warm as it trickled down my throat. The vow I made, completely forgotten, I licked my lips. And looked at the body of the galantula. I chuckled again, then bent over and tore down. Then I tore down into the meat. More blood ran down my throat. So delicious. Next, the meat went down. It was even better than the blood. I ripped and tore and ate at the galantula's body till nothing but ribs and a few scraps of muscle and skin remained. You can now see the intestines as well. In my feeding, they got strewn from the inside all around the ribs. I cackled and looked at myself again, and all I saw was red, crimson red. I burst out laughing like a maniac. After my laughing, I went to find some water. I found some and saw my face. My mouth was pulled into an evil grin that seemed to stretch end to end on my face. My teeth were also covered in blood, as was half of my face. I could now also see my spikes. The tips were completely drenched in blood. I chuckled, then started washing myself again. It took me a while, but I was finally clean again. I headed home, but I was different now. I now had an insatiable craving for Pokemon flesh and blood. I don't care about the violence or gore anymore. Heck, I sought it out. That day was the last day of the poor little vegetarian Rye. It was the day then finally sought me on the path of Crimson the Slasher. After that day, I would hunt Pokemon and kill them just as brutally as I did the Houndoom or Galvantula. I would then eat their torsos till there was hardly anything other than bones and organs left. I still remember some of the most delicious: a plump Furo, a succulent Pikachu, a moist Gyarados, and the best. The best was a golden Lickitung. It was also one of the hardest to beat. It seemed to want to have killed me as much as I wanted to kill it. Of course I knew why now. But anyways, it's about 3 levels later, hundreds of Pokemon had met their death at my claw. Each died chopped, mangled, and eaten. Well, anyways, I was in search of my next meal, and I came across a large gray horse-like Pokemon with multiple plates drifting around it. It was the great Arceus. He seemed to be searching for something, someone. I didn't know he was searching for me. Only one thing ran through my mind when I saw him. I bet he tastes better than anything. I grinned evilly, then licked my lips. He would be so delicious, yes. Sorry. Anyways, I curled up into a ball and shot out in a rollout. Only thing is, I never hit anything. I uncurled to see I was about 3 feet off the ground. One of the plates Arceus had floating around him was glowing in a purplish-pinkish one. Arceus turned and his eyes narrowed. He then asked, "Are you the Sand Slash named Rye?" I chuckled and said in a sing-song voice, "Yes, why?" Arceus' eyes narrowed even more, and he then said, "I have been searching for you. You have slayed many mercilessly, then devoured their flesh. But that's not even the worst of it. You leave their bones and what's left of their bodies strewn around the area to rot. You show now no guilt or remorse for it either. Then you dared to try and attack me? You deny these charges? I laughed like a madman and then said in the same sing-song voice, no, they were all delicious, and I bet you taste even better. Arceus growled and said, then I am here to deliver punishment. Rye the Sand Slash. You shall live out the rest of your days marked as dangerous. You shall be shunned like others that share your same fate. You'll find it hard to find victims for your meals. From now on your spite shall be dyed crimson like the color of the blood of your victims. Your yellow skin shall become a dull, sandy light brown, as if dulled and stained by the blood of those you killed. You'll be as the humans call a shiny Pokemon. To humans, you are a prize, but to your fellow Pokemon, you shall be nothing but dangerous. Someone to avoid at all cost. A story mothers will tell their children to make them behave. Your name shall also change. You shall no longer be Rye the Sand Slash, but Crimson the Slasher. This is your punishment. As Arceus spoke, I felt a burning through my body. When Arceus' speech was done, I fell to the ground, writhing in agony. Arceus stood there and watched until I just laid there panting. The burning had stopped. I scrambled up, and Arceus nodded and vanished. I wiped some sweat off myself and noticed where my skin was once yellow, it was now a light, dull, sandy brown color. I turned my neck to look at my spikes. They were now crimson red. A demented smile appeared on my face, and I started to laugh like crazy. It was true. I was now a shiny. It also told me why that link tongue was so violent. Shininess was a curse, only put upon the worst of the species. I know now that worst of the species. I knew that was also why there were so few, and you never saw more than one of them, or even their species around them. When I finally stopped laughing, my face sank into a more serious expression. If what Arceus said was true, I'd have fewer meals. I made a growling sound, then lashed out at one of the nearby trees. I almost laughed again when a Weedle fell from the tree. Poor thing was dead as soon as it fell. It became impaled on my spikes, blood now running down them and onto the ground. A little Rattata, that was hiding under the tree, let out a startled Ratha. Before it tried to bolt out, my devilish grin appeared again, and I used a quick Crush Claw to hit the Rattata. And slam it into a tree. I let out a pained rah as it hit the tree. I then cackled and started tearing at it with fury claws, sinking into my induced rage when I finally snapped out of it. The Rattatat's legs were all torn from its body, bones sticking out of him. Its tail was a few feet away from me. Bloodied and mangled, his head had rolled to be right by the tree. Its eyes were completely gouged from its sockets. The sockets still poured out blood. The eyes were squished. Its ears were an unintelligible mess of bloody ribbons. Its large teeth shattered. Half of its face was torn away, exposing the muscleless body. His body lay at my feet. I had huge claw marks strewn through it. Its heart sat in between my feet. A huge hole where it once was. More guts dangled from the Rattata's body. I cackled and grabbed its heart. I then put it in my mouth and squeezed all the blood out of it. It was so very, very warm. It went down my throat like syrup. It was so delicious. Anyways, I ate whatever meat I could get from his body. I then remembered the Weedle that I pulled it from my back. I devoured the little thing. Then I started laughing like a maniac and saying, "Who's next? Who's next? Who's next to fall to Crimson's claws?" When I finally calmed down, I staggered off into the forest. After about 5 levels later, came to the next step in my path to where I am now. I was hunting for more food. As Arceus said, it became hard to find Pokemon to eat. They all ran away from me as soon as they saw me. My diet was whatever Pokemon were slow enough to land an attack on. Anyways, I was foraging through some tall grass when I heard someone come up behind me, thinking it was a stupid Pokemon wanting to get the jump on me. I whirled around to attack, only to see a human girl stare at me wide-eyed. I let out a sand slash to her, trying to get her to leave. I did not see her as a good meal. How wrong I was. Anyways, so I tried to scare her off, but my efforts were in vain, and she finally let out what seemed to be an excited shrill. She said, "Oh my Arceus, it is a real shiny." She then grabbed a red and white orb and sent out a blue-white bunny-like Pokemon with an odd tail. Azure-Meryl, I believe? Shit. Now that looked tasty. I smiled, not knowing how matched I was. The Pokemon showed no fear, telling me it was born as well as raised in captivity. I licked my lips and prepared my claws. But before I could strike, the girl yelled, "Azul, use Hydro Pump!" I widened my eyes as a huge blast of water shot at me, and it hit me. It then went dark. When I woke up, I was in some really tight space, and it was still dark. Now that I think about it, it was a lot like where I am now, only without the pain, the excruciating pain. Anyways, I started thrashing about, and I could feel whatever I was stuck in move. Suddenly heard a muffled voice say, "Oh, woke up." Suddenly there was a flash of red, and when it cleared, I was back outside. I looked around and saw the girl in that dreaded Azumel, apparently named Azul. I then looked up and glared at the girl. She frowned and then said, "Oh, don't be like that. I won't hurt you. You'll see. It'll be fun." I glared and thought, I doubt it. The girl only sighed and then said, "I know, I'll name you. You'll be Crimson because of your pretty crimson spikes." My eyes widened. How did she know my name? She then gasped and said, "Oh, I should see what level you are and what moves you have." She then pulled out a red thing. It was called the Pokédex. She pointed at me and it unfolded, then said, "Sandslash, the mouse Pokemon. Sandslash is the evolved form of Sandshrew. It is skilled at slashing enemies with its claws. If broken, they start to grow back in a day." She nodded, and I heard a few beeps, and something red and bright shot out of the thing. The girl then said, "All right then, let's see. Sandslash, nature, violent." She stopped for a second and said, "This thing must be glitchy. There is no such nature. Anyway, she read though, then finally said, "Aha, you're level 34, and you know the moves: Poison Sting, Fury Cutter, Crush Claw, and Sand Tomb." She nodded and said, "All right, well, let's go. Let's get going, Crimson. Azul, we need to get you all leveled up. Crimson, as you stand a chance to match the rest of the team. Ah, yes, you should meet the rest." She then rummaged around in a bag till she pulled up 4 other red and white orbs. She smiled and tossed them into the air. 4 different Pokemon appeared. The girl smiled and went around to each Pokemon and said, "This is King, my Nidoking. This is Bone, my Marowak. Here's Ty, my fucking A, Minoshao. And this is Arctic, my Baratic. And of course you already met Azul, my Azure Meryl." I had to stop myself from drooling. All the Pokemon looked so delicious. Shit. So delicious. She saw my hungry stare and misread it, kind of. She then said, "Oh, you're hungry. Here, I'll get you some food." I almost jumped in excited amazement. Would she be feeding me one of those delicious-looking Pokemon? But my excitement soon turned to disappointment as she placed a bowl of food, full of what looked like Rattata pellets in front of me. She expected me to eat this? I turned my face in disgust. Fucking A. Turned my face up in disgust. She just frowned and said, "Don't be like that." Without even trying it, she suddenly came over and stuffed one of the pellets in my mouth. I soon spit out in disgust. She pouted. And this is how life dragged out for many levels. Me being forced to eat those disgusting pellets for my meals, as the other 5 ate them enthusiastically. Gah, how could I like those things? They neither taste nor felt like my delicious blood or meat. But anyway, after about 30 levels, my hunger finally became too strong. But now I was this girl's favorite Pokemon. I luckily did not even have to deal with that cramped orbit again. I was lying under a tree, not that far from camp. I couldn't sleep. My bloodlust was coursing through me like a plague. How dare this girl keep me with her and starve me, make me stop attacking Pokemons once it passed out? What's the point in that? I looked over at her and that damned Azul. I glared at them. They needed to be punished. Punished, beat, injured, mauled, killed. Yes, kill. Kill. An evil grin slipped onto my face. I quickly got up and chuckled. I then crept over to the 2. First, I had to kill Azul, yes, but sadly I had to do it quick and quietly. I ready to slash attack, and then with one well-placed blow, I lopped her head off. I then licked my claws, and that wonderful taste, the wonderful feel, the warm blood trickling down my throat like a dream. I then proceeded to tear into the body, eating it, but then I remembered the girl. I had to get my revenge before I feasted. I cleaned my claws quickly, then I licked my muzzle to clean it off. I then quickly used the light sand tomb. A small tornado of sand flew around the body of Azul till she was finally buried enough not to be seen, but easily accessed. I then went over to the girl. I stood over her, then said sand slash. The girl groaned, then opened her eyes and said, "Oh, hi, Crimson, what's wrong?" I smiled, then raised my left claws. She blinked and said, "Huh? What are you doing?" A nice loud scream erupted from her mouth as I used slash and tore down her chest. She then panted out, "Why, Crimson? Why?" I just widened my smile and aimed another blow. The girl cried for Azul. When a strong gust of wind came and blew the sand from the body, she made a small cry and then reached for an arm. I just laughed and with a nice strong slash chopped her arm off. She screamed in agony, then went to grab her arm once, blood now shooting from it. I laughed again. I proceeded to torture her, making sure she stayed conscious. Finally, she was breathing shallow, ragged breaths, eyes slit but still open. A large pool of blood surrounding her. Her other arm now lay in tatters at her side. Her legs were broken, torn in odd angles. Her chest was filled with slash marks, her face covered in her own blood. She was barely alive but conscious. Her eyes, slits, but still open. She would die soon. I grinned. Time to finish it. I stood over her, opened her mouth over my neck. What? I stood over her and opened my mouth. Opened my mouth over her neck. I licked it, and she whimpered. I was trying to milk as much terror as I could from her. I then opened my mouth wide. Another whimper. I broke skin. I choked, scream. I hit blood, an artery. A horrible scream erupted as soon as I was close, and then turned to gargles. It then fell silent. I lifted my head and licked my lips. My eyes widened. It was delicious. Her blood was better than that of a Pokemon's. Even the shinies were trumped. More and more, needed more. I proceeded to tear into her body, devouring flesh and blood. I didn't stop till there was hardly anything left. I licked my lips. It was so good. I sighed. I was about to leave when I felt a tug of something. I looked towards where I was coming from. The bag. Her back. A second. I looked towards where it was coming from. The bag. Her back. The one where she had gotten the orbs from. The orbs, I smiled. I went over and tore through it till I found 6 little orbs. I pulled out the one that was pulling me to it. It was my orb. I then remembered the other 4 Pokemon as well. I smiled. I would end them too. I sat all 6 orbs on the ground and smashed them. 4 made a loud crunch. When I looked down, blood was coming from it, the blood of a Pokemon inside. I cackled. The tug I felt from mine faded to a weak vibe. I smiled and picked up a piece of mine. I decided I'd keep it as a memento of my time there. I started laughing again and then said, "Who's next? Who's next? Who's next to die at Crimson's claws?" I laughed and used the sand tube, burying the bodies and orbs. I then staggered off, laughing. It was time to find my next partner and feast. Sorry, people. For another 30 levels, I went from trainer to trainer, suffering till bloodlust hit its peak and then killing them and eating them. By the time it happened, I had killed at least 13 trainers and their Pokemon. I was heading off to find... One second, people. Apologies. God damn it, my fucking computer ain't working. Let's see, where was I? 13 trainers and their Pokemon. I was heading off to find my next partner when I stumbled into a clearing where a familiar figure stood. Arceus. I licked my lips. I was sure he'd taste even better than human. I laughed quietly, then quickly used the sand tube on him. I then charged. And since he was actually stunned from the sand tomb, I got a bite into his leg. Oh, and it tasted elegant. Like edible gold, silver, platinum, diamonds, pearls, emeralds, rubies, and sapphires all rolled into one. But before I could even savor the taste more, Arceus let out a loud, angry roar. I was flung from his legs. What the fuck? Okay, there we go. I was flung from his leg. And then said, "I am here to deal with you. I'm here to deal with you." Shit. Here, the punishment to you. Again, Crimson the Slasher, Sand Slash. God damn it. Shit. Okay, here we go. I'm here to deal punishment to you again, Crimson the Slasher. Sand Slash, you are charged with the crime of not only killing and eating Pokemon mercilessly, but humans as well. You have also killed many Pokemon in their Pokeballs, forever confining them to it. You are now charged with the heinous act of attacking a legendary. You deny the charges. I chuckled and huffed up. I don't. They were so good and fun, and you taste even better. Then I imagined I was still out of breath from the hit into the tree. Arceus growled and said, "Your punishment shall be dealt." It would have been death, but you don't deserve it. You shall suffer a fate worse than death. You shall be imprisoned for eternity in the void, living your days in agony and visited by the ghosts of those you killed. You shall never find peace. You shall starve until the end of each cycle of ghost. Then you shall be giving the food you find most horrible. I shivered as he spoke. A black void started to appear, and when he finished it was twice the size of me. He then said, "Goodbye and good riddance." I was sucked into the void. The pain. This is my story, but I found a way to escape. You see, a very small portal opens when my food comes after every cycle. My cycle has almost been completed. Soon the last Pokemon I killed will appear. I can leave then. Look, here it comes. See you soon. Newsflash: Rogue Shiny Sandslash. Newsflash: Rogue Shiny Sandslash. People are to be warned. There is a rogue Sandslash killing around the region. People and trainers are warned to stay clear of any shiny Sandslashes. Keep your Pokemon safely inside your house or in their Pokeballs or in your sight. Do not attempt to engage it. It will not hesitate to kill you. Already 2 bodies found of human origin, countless more suspected. Count of Pokemon bodies 11 so far found. Even more are expected. I repeat, do not engage the Sandslash. No. Well, that's the creepypasta, people. I hope you don't mind. This is my first time reading it. I found it actually kind of good, even though it isn't exactly, it's somewhere in the middle between horrible and good. So yeah. By the way, put your comments down below in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe. You don't have to subscribe, but please do. So, till later, this is yours truly, Steel Paws. See you some other time, people. Bye-bye.